Now, I've seen Karen do some pretty dumb things over the years. Call the cops on my cows, bulldoze my barn, host raves in a bullpen. But this was next-level genius. See, my ranch backs up to a private stretch of lakefront, about 2 acres of pristine water, where my family's old dock's been standing since the 60s. We use it for fishing, loading supplies, and once in a while, the Coast Guard uses it for emergency landings and rescue drills. Why? Because years ago, my late father signed an official partnership agreement with the Coast Guard Auxiliary. It's registered, mapped, and legally marked as a federal emergency access point. But apparently, HOA Karen doesn't read federal maps or care about things like laws. It started when she decided to go on one of her beautification crusades. You know the type, painting rocks, measuring grass blades, lecturing everyone about community standards. Then, one morning, I walked down to the lake and froze. There, nailed to my dock in big bold letters, were 3 brand new signs: private property, no trespassing, HOA authorized access only, and just to really push it, she added, violators will be fined $1,000 and towed from a lake. I swear, I almost fell in the water laughing. I called the HOA office, got voicemail. Then I called the sheriff just in case. He told me, Hale, just stay calm. We'll check it out. But before they could even get there, things went from stupid to spectacular. Because that very afternoon, the Coast Guard showed up. A rescue chopper had been running an unscheduled training drill nearby when one of their crew members radioed in that they needed to touch down for a quick systems check. And where do they always land? You guessed it, my dock. I was up at the barn when I heard the rotor blades thumping overhead. I smiled, grabbed my hat, and headed down to meet them. But when I got there, well, Karen had beaten me to it. She was standing on my dock, hands on hips, yelling at a Coast Guard pilot. I told you, she was shouting over the roar of the helicopter. This is private property. You can't land here without HOA approval. The pilot, wearing his headset and flight gear, just blinked at her, confused. Ma'am, this is a federal emergency access point. She jabbed her finger toward the new sign. Not anymore. We've updated the community rules. The crew members were trying not to laugh, but the pilot's patience wore thin. Ma'am, you're obstructing a federal operation. Please step back. Karen puffed up like a turkey. Don't you talk to me like that. I'll have your helicopter ticketed. That's when I walked up, hands in my pockets. Afternoon, gentlemen. Sorry for the commotion. She doesn't actually own anything here. Karen whirled around. You! I told you to stay off this dock. Funny, I said, smiling. Because the US government says the opposite. The pilot looked relieved. Mr. Hale, good to see you again. We were just explaining the access agreement. I nodded. Yeah, she's not part of that deal. She's part of a different kind of special unit. Karen glared. You can't just make up fake government agreements. At that exact moment, one of the crew members pulled out a folder, laminated copy of the official authorization, complete with federal seals, GPS coordinates, and my family's ranch name in bold print. The look on Karen's face, priceless. She took one glance at the papers, her jaw dropped, and then she muttered, This must be fake. The HOA wasn't informed. The pilot replied coolly, Ma'am, the United States Coast Guard doesn't report to your homeowners association. By now, the sheriff's truck had pulled up. He took one look at the helicopter, the signs, and Karen's mortified expression, and sighed. Let me guess, he said. You posted signs on federal property again? Karen sputtered. It's community property. The sheriff shook his head. No, ma'am. This dock is registered under federal use and private ownership. You just committed criminal tampering. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. I didn't know. The sheriff wrote her up on the spot for vandalism, trespassing, and interference with federal operations. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard crew started laughing so hard they had to pause their pre-flight check. One of them even asked if he could keep one of the signs as a souvenir. I said, sure. Just make sure it's labeled, Karen access denied. A week later, Karen had to appear in court. Not for jail time, but for a hefty fine and a permanent warning. The HOA board officially distanced themselves from her actions, as usual, claiming she acted alone. But word got around fast. The story made the local paper. HOA woman tries to block Coast Guard landing. Ends up on federal watch list. After that, my dock became a local legend. Tourists started calling it Karen's Landing. Even the Coast Guard got in on the joke. The next time they landed, the pilot brought me a small metal plaque that reads, "Official Federal Access Point, except for HOA members named Karen." I mounted it right next to her old "No Trespassing" sign. Now, every time I walk down to that dock, I can still hear the faint echo of helicopter blades and Karen's voice yelling, "You can't land here," and I can't help but smile. Because sometimes, karma doesn't come on horseback. Comes in a black hawk with a badge.